A very good afternoon to all of you. It's so wonderful to have all of you from Brazil to India. So I would like to extend a warm welcome to India and to OP Jindal Global University. It is such a pleasure for me personally to welcome you here because most of the time we have visitors from different parts of the world, particularly from North America, Canada, Western Europe, UK, Australia, even from Asia, but rarely do we have visitors from Brazil. So it's very special that we are hosting all of you here in India and at JGU. My name is Raj Kumar, and I'm the Vice Chancellor of OP Jindal Global University. In your university system, I don't know the terminologies for this position, but it is we follow the British model where the Vice Chancellor is the head of the institution. In the American context, it is like the president of the university. What I want to do is that I was thinking of what I should do with you, but I will be spending, let's say, half an hour to talk to you about the history of this university, how this institution has evolved, what are the motivations and historical context that led to the establishment of this university, and where we are today and where we intend to go in the future. Our very distinguished translators have instructed me to speak naturally as if they don't exist, so I will do it in that way. And we will have a Q&A session at the end of it. So I am from a place called Kanyakumari, which is the southernmost tip of India. That's where India ends, in the south. I belong to that place. It's a very beautiful place. It's a conglomeration of Indian Ocean, Arabian Sea, and Bay of Bengal. And that's where I'm from. I did my early schooling there, after which I studied in a place called Chennai, which is the capital city of the state of Tamil Nadu in South India. I did my undergraduation there in a college called Loyola College Madras, which is a 100-year-old college, after which I came to Delhi University. I studied law at the University of Delhi here in Delhi, did my LLB from that university, after which I got the Rhodes Scholarship to go to Oxford. I was a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford, where I did my Masters in Law, and this was the year 1998, approximately 20 years ago, and I was a student at Oxford where I was pursuing my Masters, but that's when I dreamt about the idea of creating a university in India. I had studied in two good Indian universities, so I believed so strongly, but whatever I'd experienced at Oxford was absolutely transformative. I felt that this is what a university ought to be, and that transformative educational experience was inspiring, and that led to many things. I questioned myself about a very important pursuit, that are there universities like this in India? I knew about existence of many Indian universities, but I wasn't sure that whether India had universities of that kind. At that time, I met somebody quite interesting who was master of my college. I was studying in a college called University College, which was founded in the year 1249. And when I was a student in the year 1999, we were celebrating our 750th anniversary. And so this master by name Lord Butler, who used to be cabinet secretary to the government of UK, Lord Butler said that we are the oldest college in the English-speaking world. And because we were 750 years old, University College Oxford, so he kept, whenever he talked about University College Oxford, he said, we are the oldest college in the English-speaking world. And I was very curious at that time to ask him one day, why you say this? And then he said, listen, your country, India, had universities long before, and he reminded me about what I knew, which is Nalanda University and Takshashila University, Vikramshila institutions. Long before the existence of Oxford and Cambridge, long before the existence of Bologna, India had institutions of that kind. particularly Nalanda. Takshashila institution was one such institution in the Indian subcontinent, which was at its peak had 10,000 students, was a multidisciplinary institution, had students and faculty from different parts of the world. Such was, let's say, the civilizational heritage that India had at a particular point of its time. 2,000 years ago, we had such institutions. So I was inspired by that thought, and then of course I graduated from Oxford. I then got 3 more fellowships to go to Harvard. I moved to Boston and I began pursuing another master's in law, and that was a very special opportunity that I got. The thought of building something in India pretty much grew when I was a student at Harvard. The more I studied at Harvard, I was convinced about the need for building a university of that kind. The more I read about the history of higher education in the United States, I was more and more convinced that India needs universities which have very strong focus on research and knowledge creation and publications, and the opportunity to commit itself to institution building for nation building. Harvard was truly inspiring, not only because of the fact that it had outstanding faculty and an intellectually vibrant environment, but it also had people who had the vision to transform society. And that was part of a core mission that brought in people from around the world. My class of students at Harvard we were 150 students from 82 different countries in the world, including from Brazil. Such was the commitment towards internationalization that it simply brought people from around the world. I graduated from Harvard, but I was convinced about the need for doing something in India, but I wasn't sure how to go about it. I began work as a lawyer. I became a corporate lawyer and began to work at a corporate law firm in New York. But this bug of higher education caught me so much that after a year of working at a law firm, I quit my firm and joined New York University as a visiting fellow. My mission was to understand universities. I was hugely inspired by what I had experienced at US, and so I wanted to understand more. And the more I spent time in New York University, I felt that how universities could be so transformative, so much connected to the world at large. I was convinced that I want to do something in India, but I wasn't sure again how to go about it. That's when I got a job in Tokyo. I moved to Japan from New York. I began teaching at Meiji Gakuin University in Japan, and my goal was to understand universities and how research and knowledge creation and publications and how what universities do can potentially transform the world at large. Japan was fascinating for a number of reasons. First, it was an Asian country, so I was fascinated by what I saw there. But I was also deeply inspired by the kind of emphasis on fundamental research. Japanese universities, some of the top ones, are truly outstanding. The 3 top universities I began to look very closely were the University of Tokyo, the Waseda University, and the Keio University, 3 of the top universities in Japan. Their commitment to research, knowledge creation, and in many ways creating opportunities for students to pursue excellence within an academic setting was deeply inspiring. And as you know, the world of universities have been inspired by or at least the modern research university is inspired by the German model of Humboldtian institution, Humboldt University, in which the idea of a research university was in many ways created and inspired the American imagination of higher education. And of course, it was also influential and impactful even in Japan. I felt good about the fact that Japan had developed such a good system of higher education. That's when I got a job in Hong Kong. I moved to Hong Kong from Tokyo. It all began in Hong Kong. I spent 6 years in Hong Kong from 2002 to 2008. I was teaching at one university called the City University of Hong Kong, but I was trying to understand higher education system across. I was looking at Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, Taipei, of course, Australia, North America, Canada, Western Europe, and India. I was coming to India frequently to to understand Indian universities, and I was deeply disturbed by what we were doing. We were mindlessly building more and more universities with little regard to quality, let alone excellence. We were expanding the higher education sector from a relatively modest sector of 20 universities at the dawn of Indian independence in 1947. Today we have over 900 universities across the country, over 40,000 colleges we have, and we were expanding universities without regard to quality or excellence. In fact, it was so disturbing to see that we were building more and more public and private universities without emphasis on quality. The public universities were suffering from lack of governance and also a regulatory environment that was not favorable, but more importantly, resources and lack of autonomy and independence, which was almost critical for them to evolve. The privatization of Indian higher education did not lead to the creation of the Harvards and the Stanfords. Harvard and Stanford and Yale and MIT are all private universities, but that's not the Indian story. The privatization of Indian higher education led to a mediocre evolution of Indian higher education with a lot of pejorativeness connected with higher education. And so it was in this milieu I began writing a paper entitled Establishing India's First Global University. I wrote this paper, and to cut the story short, as late as 2006, I got to meet with an Indian billionaire by name Naveen Jindal. I met Mr. Naveen Jindal for the first time in October 2006 and essentially shared the paper with him and told him about the vision of building a Harvard-type university in India, a Yale-type university in India, a Stanford-type university in India, India's first global university. And he met me and I told him about this. And it was the first meeting, was a short meeting, and then I spent the next 1 year essentially persuading Mr. Jindal to do three things. One, to make a substantial financial commitment to build a global university. Second, to do it in a not-for-profit manner. Third, to let me have the academic freedom and autonomy and independence to build a world-class university in India. To cut the story short, as it is late 2007, Mr. Jindal agreed to all of that and invited me to move to India and pretty much build this university. I moved to India in early 2008, and from January to April 2008, I was trying to understand India myself. I don't know much about Brazil, but India is a difficult country. Nothing works. Systems are so beautifully designed to ensure that nobody can really do anything at all. Corruption, inefficiency, nepotism, and favoritism had been elevated into a full-fledged science where nobody can actually do anything at all. And this regulatory conundrum that was being faced across India was a deeply frustrating experience for me as a young academic who had moved from Hong Kong to India. But I had already traveled the distance far too long, and I quit my job and took over as the head of the initiative. And so we began the process of land acquisition, formulation of curriculum, course structure, program development, faculty recruitment plan, student admissions process, hiring of architects, construction engineers, contractors, and persuading the government of Haryana to pass a legislation, to pass a law to establish the first private university in the state of Haryana. It is also a fact that the Indian regulatory context has high levels of challenge in relation to governance and corruption. So one of the things that we told to ourselves is we will not pay any 1 rupee bribe to anybody at any level of governance and government, including regulatory bodies, but also others. And that also comes with its own challenges. But then we were convinced that we are here trying to do something good for India and for the world at large, and in that process We will not compromise on our ethics and our principles and our values as we move forward. To cut the story short, we went through an elaborate process over 15 to 20 different committees within the government of Haryana, the Bar Council of India, the state legislative process, and all of that was completed in a record time. And on 27th January 2009, the government of Haryana passed the legislation, a law establishing O.P. Jindal Global University as the first private university in the state of Haryana. Immediately thereafter, I was appointed as the first Vice Chancellor of the university, and soon after, we began the process of construction of campus, recruitment of faculty, and admission of students. In a span of less than 6 months, we built over 100,000 square feet of built-up space, one of the fastest construction projects ever undertaken in the history of post-independent India, with India's largest construction company, Larsen & Toubro, working 24/7 from February 2009 to September 2009 with over 5,000 people on campus. During the same time, we recruited faculty, admitted students, and as promised to Mr. Jindal, on 30th September 2009, we began the first academic session of the first school of the university, Jindal Global Law School, with only 100 students and 10 faculty members. It was a very defining moment for us. In fact, one of the very distinguished American scholars, Mark Galanter, when he was at our campus, he remarked and he said that it was akin to how Stanford opened its door. He said that when Stanford University was established, there was widespread skepticism about the idea of because Leland Stanford was governor of California, was a politician, but also a businessman, and a very famous New York newspaper wrote that when Stanford will open its doors, it'll be Stanford professors will be teaching to empty classrooms. The prediction was it was doomed to fail. But of course, it didn't happen. Stanford ended up becoming what it was. And very interesting parallels, Stanford, Leland and Jane Stanford established Stanford in memory of their son who died very early. In this case, Mr. Naveen Jindal established this university in memory of his father, Mr. O.P. Jindal. So this is a very interesting, and Mr. Naveen Jindal, like Mr. Leland Stanford, is both a politician and a businessman. So very interesting parallels between both Mr. Jindal as well as Mr. Stanford. So that's how we began, but that was a very defining moment for us. We never looked back since then. In 2010, we started the Jindal Global Business School. In 2011, the Jindal School of International Affairs. In 2012, the Jindal School of Government and Public Policy. In 2013, the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. In 2016, the Jindal School of Journalism and Communication, and in 2017 we established the 7th school, the Jindal School of Art and Architecture, followed by the 8th school in the same year, the Jindal School of Banking and Finance. We pretty much expanded the university quite significantly, and this year is our 10th year. On 30th September 2019, we will be celebrating our 10th anniversary. This journey has been quite extraordinary. We moved from 100 students to over 5,000 students. Simply in the last 10 years. 100 students to 5,000 students. 10 faculty members to 500 faculty members. 100,000 square feet of built-up space to over 2.5 million square feet of built-up space. 1 school to 8 schools. Beyond all of this expansion, there are 5 things that shaped our vision and continue to shape our mission. First, we are a global university. For us to be a global university means to have a global faculty, a global curriculum, a global course structure, a global program, a global research agenda, all of which promoting global interaction. 17% of our full-time faculty members, very important, 17% of our full-time faculty members are non-Indian nationals recruited from 32 countries and regions in the world. There is no university in the whole of Asia, barring the National University of Singapore, which is more international than us. There is no university in India which is even close to us when it comes to internationalization. Our internationalization is not only confined to our faculty, we have built substantive international collaborations with over 250 universities spread across 55 different countries in the world. These collaborations are in 10 different areas. They are faculty exchange programs, student exchange programs, joint teaching, joint research, joint conferences, joint publications, dual degree programs, short-term study abroad programs, inward mobility immersion programs, as well as joint executive education programs. Can you get that at a glance? मेरे ऑफिस से JGU at a glance करके ले आना छोटा वाला 50 copies ले आना. These 10 forms of collaborations that I just said are the way by which our faculty and students engage with the universities around the world. So global is so central to our vision, our imagination, and our mission. The second characteristic of our university is our strong commitment to research. We are a research-oriented university. We maintain a 1:10 faculty-student ratio. Quite extraordinary. That 1:10 faculty-student ratio means that our faculty members have more time to produce research and produce publications. And in humanities and social sciences, that makes it even more difficult to engage in that type of faculty-student ratio. We have established 55 research centers and 3 research and capacity building institutes within the campus across all the 8 different schools of our university. Research is so central to what we do at our campus. Of course, the fruits of that is already seen. We have now broken into rankings, and I'll come back in a minute. We have been ranked as the youngest Indian university to break into QS Asia rankings, QS BRICS rankings as well. And I'll come back to it briefly later. The third characteristic of our university is our strong commitment to public service. We are a private university, but we are deeply committed to public service. I come from a middle-class family in India. My father is a professor, mother is a government doctor. Most of our faculty come from that type of background. But I had the privilege to study in Oxford University, where I didn't spend 1 rupee. I had the privilege to study at Harvard University, where I didn't spend 1 rupee, but Oxford and Harvard paid for me. So we brought that vision and imagination to Jindal, and I'm happy to report that over 50% of our students are on some form of scholarship or the other. We believe access to high quality education is so critical for providing opportunities for young people to be able to be educated in a world-class institution. And that was part of our mission and part of our commitment as well. The fourth aspect of our university is our strong commitment to creating an intellectually vibrant environment through conferences, lectures, workshops, and seminars. And the fifth is what we do towards executive education or continuing education. Beyond these 5 characteristics, our university is also committed to a few fundamental values as a part of our institution building. First, we are deeply committed to diversity. Diversity in all forms and manifestations. That includes geographical diversity, linguistic diversity, religious diversity, nationality-based diversity, pedagogical diversity, and many other. In fact, in your packet, in your bag, I have given you a copy of the diversity report that we published just recently. It's called Diversity and Inclusion, and that report outlines a very detailed framework surrounding diversity that we do on campus. The second value is our strong commitment to gender and justice relating to it. Nearly 50% of our faculty members are women, which is unusual in India. Most Indian universities in particular are mostly having men in both positions of power and responsibility, but we are very deeply committed to diversity in the form of gender. Yeah, sabko de dena. I'm sharing with you a very little sort of something called JGU at a glance. I know we give you lots of materials and you may not read it, but this is one thing I know you will read it because it's easy to read. That's the second part of it, diversity. The third that we are deeply committed to is experiential learning, in the sense that we strongly believe that whatever happens in the classroom needs to be supplemented to what happens outside, including in the community and in the society at large. And that means we need to take an effort towards, let's say, integrating the pedagogy of teaching and learning to the impact that we want to see through that process. And that's what we are deeply committed to, experiential learning. The fourth thing is interdisciplinarity. Universities all the time aspire to do interdisciplinary work, but in reality, there is so little interdisciplinarity because of both, institutional limitations, lack of imagination, which has affected the ability of universities to promote interdisciplinary learning. We have these 8 schools. We offer over 200 courses, of which 100 of them, which is 50% of those courses, are cross-registered electives across different schools. Students from different schools of our university can cross-register courses in the other school. And we have created an enabling opportunity because all those cross-registered courses will be conducted after 5 p.m. in the evening, all the way till 11 p.m. so that students can take it. We are a fully residential campus. So these 5,000 students live on campus. That makes the cross-registration process and the interdisciplinarity useful. The fifth aspect of our university is our strong commitment to a holistic learning that goes beyond classrooms, including debates, extracurricular activities, sports, in music, theater, dance, and other type of things. There are over 25 student-led societies, each of which are actively engaged in the overall growth and evolution of our students. This is what JGU is. I want to kind of conclude what I wanted to say by saying that the last few years have been quite exceptional for us. We were, a few years ago, when the National Accreditation and Assessment Council had its methodology where the NAC A was the highest grade given to any Indian university, we achieved the NAC A grade just when we were 5 years old. It was quite an exceptional achievement for a new university. Second, we were also 2 of the Indian private universities which were given autonomy. Among the 900 plus universities, only 52 Indian universities were granted the status of an autonomous institution by the Ministry of Human Resource Development and the University Grants Commission, which is the key regulatory body for higher education. And we were one of them which has been given autonomy. And most recently, we were also have been recommended by the Empowered Experts Committee to be declared as an institute of eminence. And that is a process which we are going through for the last 1 year, and hopefully after the new government comes to power, we will have an announcement to that effect. On the international rankings, it's been quite phenomenal. There are 13,000 universities in Asia. We have been ranked top 400. There are 9,000 universities in the BRICS region. We have been ranked top 300. And we have been also the youngest Indian university to have broken into the QS, BRICS and QS Asia rankings, the information of which is there in the at a glance that I just shared it with you. Beyond all of this, we're very proud of one of the other distinctions. We have been declared as the cleanest campus in India. There is something called the Swachhta rankings of higher education institutions. Swachhta means cleanliness. So on the basis of cleanliness, the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India, had also ranked universities in India, and we're very proud of the fact that we have achieved that. That's not only the physical cleanliness, it's also about solar power, rainwater harvesting, sustainable use of electricity, and many other variables and factors that are taken into account, and we have been consistently been declared as one of the cleanest campuses, the cleanest campus last year, and this year the second one. I want to end by saying that I'm so delighted to have all of you here, because we wanted to build a very strong and substantive partnership with universities across Brazil and indeed Latin America. I must confess that in India, we have so little knowledge and, I dare say, unfortunately, even interest to understand Latin America, let alone Brazil. I earnestly believe that that has to change. If BRICS has to have a meaningful impact on the global imagination of higher education, development, as well as international relations, universities in the BRICS region, in particular in India and Brazil, have to do many more things together. I sincerely hope that your visit to India and to our campus and the conversations that you have been having with our faculty members will culminate in a substantive possibility of doing things together. In fact, our internationalization vision has led to a situation where every year we host over 400 students from around the world, mostly from United States and Europe, but also from Australia and China at our campus on what is known as India Immersion Program and Short-Term Study Abroad Program and Student Exchange Program. A similar number of our students, over 400 of them, go around the world to mostly United States, but also Europe and Australia and Singapore and Hong Kong and South Korea and Taipei and China and other places, including one university called the FGV Law School and also something with the University of Sao Paulo, but we should be doing more as a part of the exchange program. We believe that the possibility to do many more things together is important, and it is live. Now, why India becomes important for the world is that we are a very young country. An old civilization, but a young country. For all of you in this room, I want to say that India is a country of 1.35 billion people, but that's not good enough in that sense. The real statistics which you need to remember is 850 million people in India are less than 35 years of age. I'll repeat it. 850 million people in India are less than 35 years of age. Indian life expectancy has increased to approximately 70 years, which means that when good part of the Western world will become older, when most parts of the Eastern world, including China and Japan, will become older, India will be younger and younger for a longer time. I believe Indians will be shaping not only the future of India, but also the future of the world. It is important that young Indians work closely with young Brazilians and young Indian scholars and teachers and researchers do things together with Brazil. That is the fervent hope on the basis of which your visit to India and to our campus and our engagement with you should culminate in. I want to stop here. I want to thank our distinguished translator for his patience, and also to thank all of you for your presence. I'll be happy to take questions. Thank you.
E também parabenizar pelo excelente trabalho, em tão pouco tempo, levar a instituição a tão alto grau de qualidade. Eu não sei se eu estou equivocado, mas nós tivemos na AC, né, na segunda-feira, na agência de acreditação em Bangalore, e eles nos apresentaram um pouco do processo de acreditação, inclusive os critérios que vão de... o A é o maior de todos, mas ainda tinham duas graduações, que era o A+, e o A++. O que, na sua opinião, falta quais são os próximos passos, né, para atingir ainda mais qualidade e chegar no A++.
Thank you for that question. So as I mentioned to you, when we did our accreditation process, the highest grade was A. So we did receive the highest grade then. Since our accreditation process, NAC has changed its accreditation methodology and has introduced the A plus and the AA+. So at the time, and the accreditation is a part of a cycle, once in a few years you go through the cycle, and obviously in the next cycle we will position ourselves for that. But whenever we had completed our accreditation process, we received the highest possible grade, which was the NAC A grade. Having said that, quality and an effort to promote excellence is a continuous process, and we are positioning ourselves to do many things with the view to preparing ourselves to receive the highest grade, which is now the NAC AA, A++, yeah.
Bom, primeiramente, parabenizar pela palestra, pela explanação. Para nós, de líderes, né, de instituições de ensino do Brasil, foi muito bom conhecer um pouco o sistema da universidade. E o senhor mencionou sobre o BRICS, e infelizmente ainda é um acordo entre os nossos países que não saiu do papel. Não temos o envolvimento do BRICS como temos, por exemplo, do programa Erasmus, ou até mesmo do bloco econômico dos Estados Unidos, Canadá e México, que é o NAFTA. O senhor mencionou ainda sobre o interesse das nossas instituições em fazer acontecer. Percebemos aqui no Pocket Statistics de 2019 que temos 2 convênios com o Brasil, mas, pelo que eu entendi, muito pouco efetivo, não saiu do papel. Nós, enquanto líderes de instituições de ensino do Brasil, queremos que os nossos convênios, de fato, aconteçam, que não sejam convênios dentro de gaveta. Então, a minha pergunta é, qual é o seu real interesse e disponibilidade em fazer com que os convênios de mobilidade acadêmica, seja de professores, de alunos, ou até mesmo projetos de pesquisa, saiam do papel e na sua ideia, né? Qual é o primeiro passo que a gente pode sair daqui desse dia de hoje?
Well, thank you so much for that question. When we establish international collaborations, it has been our intention always to make sure that the collaboration does not remain in paper and it actually creates an impact on the life of our students and faculty. In fact, the Brazilian collaboration, I'll give you an example, the collaboration with FGV has been quite positive, where 4 to 5 of our faculty members have gone to FGV and taught full-fledged courses there. We have hosted at least 5 to 6 FGV professors to come and teach here and participate in conferences. But if you permit me to be candid, let me also be candid with you that one of the major challenges of building any substantive collaboration with universities that are located in countries where English language is not the natural and obvious and preferred way of communication is the limiting factor when it comes to the ability to build those collaborations. To answer your question, we are more than keen and absolutely interested in promoting any of those 10 different forms of collaborations that I briefly articulated. We are interested in faculty exchange, student exchange, joint teaching, joint research, joint conferences, joint publications, dual degree, short-term study abroad, and the like. The question is, to what extent there are institutional capacities that will enable such a possibility to emerge. I am prepared, and let me tell you, Our success with United States and Western Europe and the UK and Australia has been, Canada has been phenomenal, but with China, our success has not been as much as we would like to, but still over 25 of our professors have been teaching in China. Over 30 to 40 students from Jindal have been in China. We have hosted over 100 Chinese students and over 50 Chinese professors in our university here. We set up the Center for India-China Studies. We have 3 faculty members from China who are teaching on a full-time basis. So in a way, why I am saying this is, we are deeply committed to the Brazil-India collaboration. We want to work with you and to be imaginative about building this partnership. And let me tell you, we owe it to the future of young people of both our countries that we need to create an enabling environment for building this partnership. But we need to also work towards removing the obstacles and the bottlenecks which sometimes undermine our best intentions to fulfill these collaborative ideas.
Parabéns pelo trabalho. Incrível, em pouco tempo a universidade conseguiu
Sorry, go ahead.
Em pouco tempo a universidade conseguiu resultados muito bons. Nós estamos num mundo muito dinâmico e incertezas, e como você vê a universidade daqui a 10 anos? Quais são os próximos passos para a instituição se consolidar? Nós estamos no que chamamos no mundo de Revolução 4.0, no mundo mais digital. Como a instituição está trabalhando este tema?
Thank you so much for that question. So I think as all of us educators around the world, when we look about the future, we are conscious of the emergence of new technologies. We are conscious of how artificial intelligence and robotics and machine learning and data analytics are dramatically transforming the landscape of education. We are conscious about the fact that how Khan Academy and Coursera, which are online learning tools, are quite in many ways substantively altering the way higher education systems are there. We also believe that there is a real challenge to the brick and mortar campuses of education that we have built around the world. And there is a threshold question that is being asked, that is this model of education going to be relevant? And my answer to that is an unequivocal yes. I strongly believe that the existing model of brick and mortar campuses will remain and is here to stay, notwithstanding its long evolution. And I say this, I say this with the responsibility that not only they are here to stay, but we need to make them stay. Because I strongly believe that the fundamental dimensions of education, which includes a sense of inspiration, a need for building an ethical edifice around which young and responsible students can become, let's say, responsible adults to pursue meaningful lives and careers in their future, to develop a deeper sense of sympathy and empathy in their own worldview. These are qualities of head and heart which I believe cannot be inculcated through online learning. The need for engaging with real people in a physical environment, to be able to develop a sense of understanding of the other by discussing and debating and disagreeing and agreeing, all of that needs to be part of a process. So, for universities to remain relevant for the future, we need to re-examine our curriculum. We need to re-examine our pedagogy. We need to re-examine our approach to learning. If we continue to do the same thing that we have done for hundreds of years, we definitely will face an existential threat. It's not that our jobs will go away, but society will be lesser served if we somehow let ourselves to be undermined. And that is why we need to reimagine higher education and its future. As far as JGU is concerned, you must be already aware that we are a purely humanities and social sciences and professional schools such as law and architecture only. We don't do medicine, we don't do engineering, we don't do any of the STEM disciplines. We have developed our 15-year strategic plan up to 2033, in which the evolution of our university from 8 schools to 17 schools, from 5,000 students to 17,000 students, from 500 faculty members to 1,700 faculty members has already been formulated. In this framework of evolution, we have remained as a humanities and social sciences university. We are deeply committed to that expansion, but we continue to maintain the 1:10 faculty-student ratio. We want to focus on quality, we want to focus on excellence, we also want to focus on research. I must say that the Indian imagination for higher education is dramatically changing. When I went to Delhi University as a young student in the 90s, India was largely a public university model. But 25 years since I went to Delhi University, we have a changed country today. Over 70% of Indian higher education institutions today are private sector. Most people won't know this, but I want to keep you informed. 70% of higher education, it's not just the private universities, the colleges including. India is a land of colleges, 40,000 plus colleges, over 1,500 law schools, over 5,000 business schools. Many of them are standalone, affiliated to a university. So the Indian higher education sector is largely private when it comes to number of institutions. Another interesting dimension is the number of students. Over 70% of them are also studying in private higher education institutions. So never before in the history of India, we've had a tectonic shift in which both in terms of number of students and number of higher education institutions, the private sector dominates. It has its own consequences in relation to quality and resources and also commitment to excellence. But this is where an opportunity lies. How do we educate the future young people, not just of India, but around the world?
A minha pergunta, até complementando um pouquinho a sua resposta, né, nessa última resposta, como você falou na sua explanação...
I'm not able to hear.
A minha pergunta vai na linha da sua última resposta. Na sua explanação, o senhor colocou que o crescimento das instituições privadas não possibilitou, infelizmente, não possibilitou o florescimento de instituições do tipo Harvard, por exemplo, né? Hoje, 70% da oferta são instituições privadas, é uma realidade semelhante ao do Brasil. Nós temos também 75% das matrículas são cobertas pela iniciativa privada e também há uma série de discussões em cima disso, sobre o futuro das instituições e do setor privado. Na sua visão, qual a perspectiva das instituições privadas para o futuro? Qual as tendências para o setor privado aqui na Índia?
Yeah. Well, my personal view is that the state in India has abdicated its responsibility towards funding. In fact, we have seen the percentage of GDP investment in higher education has not been very impressive. And if you compare a country like China, for example, where the public sector dominates, that's not the case in India. So while the reality is we have privatized our higher education quite significantly, and I believe that it's an irreversible trend. In the future, it is only going to go more, because the state, for its own reasons, has decided that it is no longer going to put enough resources, and I fear that it will further cut resources from higher education as it prioritizes primary and secondary education, other areas of infrastructure. So this means that there will be more and more private higher education institutions in India. It's already happening. This also creates another problem, that a lot of these institutions are, let's say, not very desirable institutions. They are mediocre, they are for-profit, they are at times dubious, and they have a pejorative sense of education. So one of the trends that is going to emerge is that there is going to be a new generation of private universities and private higher education institutions which are clearly not for profit, which are deeply committed to excellence, which are global in their both aspiration and commitment, which are prepared to connect with the world at large, and also are deeply committed to putting resources to promote excellence. That is the trend, although I must say that there are far fewer universities like that in our country. In India, we have a few such institutions, but by and large, because one of the challenges that we are facing is that we have a young population who needs to be educated. The gross enrollment ratio is approximately 27 to 28%, and we want to reach to 40% and then to 50%, which means that we need more and more education institutions. In that process, we have compromised quality, and that is widely acknowledged by our regulatory bodies and our leaders in higher education, and there is an effort in the last few years to change that. Change in India comes slowly. We are a very vibrant democracy, and we are actively engaged in civil society. The decision-making process is very complex, and all of that contributes to a relatively slow process. And we are also over-regulated and under-governed. And so when you have an over-regulation and under-governed system, you are bound to have struggles and challenges as we build structures for higher education. But I see a lot of positive trends, and the trends are going to be driven by the young people of India who are seeking education, who are seeking opportunities. In fact, it's already taking place, but that the speed in which it is taking place will be improved in the years to come.
Primeiro, parabéns aí pelo trabalho, acho que é um projeto bem bacana. E eu tenho algumas curiosidades com relação ao projeto de vocês. Foi falado bastante de internacionalização, mas eu queria saber um pouquinho primeiro do perfil do aluno de vocês aqui na instituição. Nesses dias todos que nós tivemos na Índia, nós ouvimos falar de instituições STEM, um foco muito grande em tecnologia, e a gente aqui está se deparando com uma instituição que é bem diferente. Uma segunda coisa que chamou bastante, pelo menos a minha atenção, a instituição tem um perfil mais ocidentalizado. Um perfil bem parecido com as escolas americanas, europeias, né? E aí eu queria entender um pouquinho assim, quem é o aluno que vocês estão atraindo? É o aluno aqui do Estado? É o aluno nacional? Como é que é isso aqui internamente? A segunda questão que eu gostaria de saber é como é que é a competição para vir estudar aqui. Porque ontem, por exemplo, nós tivemos na outra universidade, vimos um número que ficamos assombrados, que são milhares de alunos que prestam para milhões que se candidatam para chegarem poucos ao final do processo de seleção. E isso, com certeza, ajuda a garantir a qualidade. E aí eu queria saber um pouco de vocês a respeito disso. E uma terceira questão, eu queria saber como é que comunicar para os alunos, para os candidatos num país desse tamanho? Nós estamos falando de um país de mais de 1 bilhão de habitantes. Como é que a gente faz para fazer campanha para informar para os alunos todos esses valores que vocês têm?
All right, great. Thank you so much for those real 3 questions. Let me try to answer them. First of all, I will invite you to read that report that we have given to you. That report in your bag has something, it's called diversity and inclusion. And we have given data and data points about how we have developed diversity in our campus. We have students from across the 29 states of India and also 20 different countries in the world. Secondly, it's a related point is that this is a very important aspect of what we're trying to do, which is that as a private university, we are fee dependent. But because we are established through a not-for-profit philanthropic initiative, our benefactor has subsidized the possibility of fee, and hence we charge relatively less to the cost of education that will be incurred if we offer this type of education. That means our students are subsidized in their education, although our fee structure is higher than, let's say, a typical public university. A related aspect is that even after that, we provide scholarships and fellowships to make that relatively higher subsidized fee structure to be even more subsidized and to make it more accessible. Of course, that is not available for everybody. Over 50% of our students get that, and not all of them get 100%, but it's an effort to make it more and more accessible. As far as the idea of, in fact, almost, as I said, we pride in the fact that over nearly 17% of our faculty members are non-Indian nationals recruited from over 32 different countries in the world. And also 50% of our faculty members are graduates of the top 200 universities in the world. Simply put, we have nearly 40 graduates of Oxford, 25 from Cambridge, 10 from Harvard, several from other top universities. So we believe that global is a central aspect of our imagination. Having said that, the reason we are here in Sonipat and not in New York, London, Tokyo, Singapore, Hong Kong, is that we believe in the idea of India. We believe in the possibility of making change in India. We also believe in the fact that change, if India can change and we can contribute change within India, it has a lot of impact for around the world, including in the BRICS countries. And so that vision and imagination has brought many of us to Sonipat and to contribute to doing what we are doing. It's also important for us to recognize that the admissions process is very transparent. You are right that in public universities in India, the top ones, there are millions of people trying to apply, and accessibility is a major challenge. We are very fortunate that in our, let's say, in our largest school, for example, we receive over 8,000 applications for some 600 seats. For some other schools, it's lesser, but the idea is our entrance examination and our admissions process is sufficiently meritocratic that it does select good students. One of the things that I'm very conscious of is that it is not that all the students we select are the most outstanding students in the country. However, our goal is to be able to select, say, good to above average students and sometimes very good students, and then to make all of them exceptional. The process of education and the inspiring ecosystem that we have on campus should enable them to achieve their fullest potential and to be able to achieve higher heights even beyond the heights when they had imagined to achieve when they entered the portals of this institution. That is the role of an educator, and that is what we are deeply committed to. I think, have I answered most of your questions, I hope? Sorry, communication with? Oh yeah, so because, see, for us, I mean, for the students on campus, it's easy because our faculty-student ratio is 1:10. But if you are asking how do I engage with the whole country for our outreach efforts, we do this in a very laborious manner. We don't rely on advertisements. Me and my faculty travel across the country. So yesterday I was in Bangalore for 2-3 days. I interacted with over 1,000 parents and students. I go around the country. In the last 10 years, I have given over 5,000 talks across the country, talking to potential students and parents in schools, colleges, universities, and other public forums. And not only me, my deans and other faculty members. The reason we adopted this type of outreach model is that we want to share the idea of our university. We want to share the future vision of higher education. We don't want to just rely upon agents and coaching centers and advertisements and media gimmicks to talk about us. We want to be there to share our own life experiences to inspire young people to come here. I must say that I need to get into another meeting, so I'll take one more question and then I will have to leave. I'm sorry, but I will also see you at 4 o'clock at the distinguished lecture by Mr. N. Ravi. Oh, okay, great.
Boa tarde. Primeiro, cumprimentá-lo pela sua trajetória pessoal e pelas conquistas da sua universidade. A minha questão vai na seguinte direção. O senhor mesmo disse que está em Sonipat, no estado de Haryana, se não me engano. E tem um modelo de universidade inspirado em Stanford, Yale, Harvard, enfim. Se tornaram e querem mais adiante em termos de avançarem como uma Global University. Portanto, para competir com universidades do mundo inteiro. Competir no sentido de atrair o melhor perfil de estudantes possível. O foco de vocês está mais voltado para o sudeste da Ásia, eu pergunto, ou para outros países, além do sudeste da Ásia, como gerenciar uma universidade que pretende ficar no A++, Global Competitive, e como torná-la affordable para um público internacional que se interessaria para vir para Sonipat. Como é essa equação? Como enfrentar esse desafio e essa equação?
Thank you. Well, it's a great question, and I think so. The first thing that we did was to be able to develop a vision surrounding the global idea. And for me, global is not just outside India. We are global even within India, in the sense that for us, the global, the national, the regional, the local, they're all blended. There are students who are studying from the United States. There are students from Sonipat who are studying here. So the idea of a great university is for it to be able to blend the global with the local, and that's what we are trying to do. As far as the vision and the accessibility is concerned, we are not particularly keen to be able to get students from any particular region of the world, because unlike most other private universities, it is not that we are actively expanding to have more students. Our interest is to be able to provide access to students who are interested in us and who believe in some of the disciplines that we offer here. In that process, if we are able to get good students from different parts of India and the world, it's fine. In fact, if you see our internationalization, one of the biggest gap in our internationalization is our international students. If you see our international faculty, we have 17% of them. Our collaborations galore. But if you look at our international students, they are barely 80 to 100 out of the 4,500 now, which means that they are much lesser in terms of percentage. And that's because of the fact that we have not done any significant outreach around the world. We are not trying to, concentrate on a market like, Australia and other places. Not that we are opposed to the idea, but a lot of our effort and time and energy and resources have been spent around building the idea of a global university, of which international students is only one component. There are other, in my view, more important components that we need to focus on, which is what we have done. In the natural progression of things, I believe we will also get international students, as we have seen. But as far as Sonipat is concerned, I think that's the unique character of our university. We are kind of away from Delhi, and we also have the benefit of a large sort of fully residential campus. And that has its own challenges. As you can see, we are cut off from the city, but it also comes with unique opportunities. I want to take this moment to really thank you and appreciate your patience and your wonderful set of questions. I believe we are all in this together as educators. We all have a very onerous responsibility of educating the young minds of the future. And these young minds are not just going to shape the future of Brazil and India, but are going to be shaping the future of the world. And that is what we need to inculcate in them. World is so more globalized than what it was before. When I was born in India and spent most of my education in India, I never thought I will ever leave India. And then when I went around the world, it was not like I was all the time thinking I will come back to India, and even if I had come back to India, little did I ever imagine I will be in Sonipat. I am from Kanyakumari and I am now in Sonipat. So the possibilities of the future are so unpredictable. But then it is for sure, if you are able to inspire young minds, they can have an imagination to shape that future and help build the future. Thank you once again. I also want to thank Mr. Nand Kishore, a very distinguished private secretary from the University Grants Commission. He and his colleagues are engaging on a very important task of helping India build a higher education system, and his organization is known for its extraordinary work in relation to connecting institutions, and the fact that they have taken this effort to bring you all to our campus. We are grateful to you, Mr. Kishore, for your time and your presence here. Thank you so much.